There are places in this world, dark corners, where the veil between our reality and the next is thin. For centuries, people have avoided these locations, whispering their names in hushed tones, and for good reason. These are places steeped in tragedy, violence, and despair. The very soil is saturated with the energy of those who suffered within their walls, leaving an indelible stain that time cannot wash away. We're talking about peculiar stories that defy explanation, strange happenings that make the hair on your arm stand on end, and dark mystical pasts that echo with the screams of the dead. These are not just old buildings or forgotten ruins, they are active paranormal hotspots. They are portals to another dimension where disembodied voices are captured on digital recorders, full-bodied apparitions manifest before your very eyes, and unseen forces make their presence known with bone-chilling intensity. We have spent years investigating locations just like these, seeking answers, seeking proof of what lies beyond the grave. We go to these places to understand the stories of the spirits who are trapped, to give them a voice. We are drawn to the mystery, to the fear, to the raw energy that pulsates from these haunted grounds. These are the epicenters of paranormal activity, places where the dead do not rest in peace. They are waiting. They are watching. They have stories to tell. Are you ready to listen? We are about to take you on a journey to the most terrifying, most active, and most spiritually charged locations on the planet. Here are the top 15 most haunted places in the world. We begin our journey in the misty highlands of Scotland, at a place that looks like it was ripped from the pages of a Gothic nightmare, Glamis Castle. This isn't just any castle, it's a place with a royal lineage and a dark, twisted soul. For over 600 years, its stone walls have been the silent witnesses to secrets so terrible, they remain hidden to this day. The air here is heavy, thick with the weight of history and something else, something unseen. It's a feeling I know all too well, the feeling of being watched by centuries of restless spirits. The legends born from this place are chilling. The most infamous is the story of the monster of Glamis, a horrifically deformed heir who was allegedly locked away in a secret chamber his entire life. They say his tormented spirit still roams the castle, his sorrow and rage palpable in the cold spots that drift through the corridors. Then there's the tale of the Grey Lady, the ghost of Lady Janet Douglas, who was burned at the stake for witchcraft in 1537. Her ethereal form is seen drifting through the clock tower and the castle chapel, a constant sorrowful reminder of the brutal injustice she faced. But the activity doesn't stop there. There's the story of Earl Beardy, a wicked nobleman who, in a fit of rage, declared he would play cards with the devil himself. It's said that on stormy nights, the sounds of shouting, cursing, and dice being thrown can still be heard from a sealed room where he is now eternally damned to play his game. This castle is a vortex of paranormal energy, a place where multiple tragedies have created layers upon layers of spiritual activity. The question isn't if you'll experience something at Glamis, but what you'll encounter in its shadowed halls. Now we travel to the arid landscapes of Rajasthan, India, to a place so notoriously haunted that the government itself has forbidden entry after sunset. This is Bhangar Fort, a beautiful, haunting ruin with a curse that has left it frozen in time. During the day, it's a stunning collection of temples, palaces, and marketplaces, but as the sun begins to dip below the horizon, a palpable sense of dread descends upon the entire area. The energy shift is undeniable. It's a warning from the spirits that linger here. The story behind the curse is a dark tale of obsession and black magic. A powerful wizard, Singya, became infatuated with the beautiful Princess Ratnavati of Bhangar. He tried to use a magic potion to win her love, but she discovered his treachery and thwarted his plan. Before dying from the attempt, the wizard cast a powerful curse upon the fort, decreeing that all who lived within its walls would die, and their spirits would be trapped there forever, never to be reborn. Shortly after, a brutal war decimated the population, and the fort was abandoned overnight. Today, the curse holds strong. The Archaeological Survey of India has placed a sign at the entrance, explicitly stating that entering the borders of Bhangar before sunrise and after sunset is strictly prohibited. Locals tell terrifying stories of those who have dared to defy the warning, of strange noises, apparitions, and the overwhelming feeling of being followed. Some who have stayed the night have never been seen again. This isn't just a ghost story, it's a government-enforced reality. The spirits of Bhangar are not welcoming, and their eternal torment is a powerful force you do not want to challenge. Our investigation takes us to the shores of Oslo, Norway, to a medieval fortress with a history as cold and hard as the stone it's built from. Akershus Fortress has stood for over 700 years, serving as a royal residence, a military base, and most chillingly, a brutal prison. The energy here is heavy, oppressive. You can feel the layers of suffering that have soaked into the very foundation of this place. The dungeons in particular are a hotbed of paranormal activity, places where men were left to rot in complete darkness, deprived of all human contact. The fortress's dark history was magnified during World War II when the Nazis occupied it. They used Akershus as a site for interrogation, torture, and execution. Many members of the Norwegian resistance met their end right here, their final moments filled with pain and defiance. Their energy is still incredibly strong. Visitors and guards report hearing screams echoing from the execution grounds, the sound of marching feet when no one is there, and the distinct sensation of being pushed or grabbed by unseen hands in the dark, winding passageways. One of the most terrifying apparitions is that of a demonic dog known as Malcanison, which is said to guard the fortress gates. Legend has it that anyone who sees this spectral beast with glowing red eyes is doomed to die a violent death within the year. Another prominent ghost is a faceless female spirit known as Mantelgeistin, who appears from the darkness, her long robes flowing behind her. This isn't just a historical site, it's a place where the tormented spirits of soldiers, prisoners, and victims of war are locked in a perpetual state of unrest. We now journey to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to a place that was designed to inflict psychological torment. Eastern State Penitentiary wasn't just a prison, it was a Gothic fortress of solitude and madness. When it opened in 1829, it introduced a revolutionary and, honestly, brutal system of confinement in solitude with labor. Inmates were kept in total isolation, hooded whenever they were outside their cells, all to force penitence. This extreme isolation drove many prisoners insane, and that raw, desperate energy still clings to every inch of this crumbling cell block. This place housed some of America's most notorious criminals, including Scarface Al Capone and bank robber Slick Willie Sutton. But it's not the famous names that make this place so terrifying, it's the thousands of anonymous souls who suffered and died within these walls. The sheer volume of misery has turned Eastern State into one of the most paranormally active locations in the world. The cell blocks are alive with disembodied whispers, shadowy figures darting down long corridors, and the chilling sound of cell doors slamming shut on their own. I've investigated here myself, and honestly, the evidence we've captured is undeniable. In cell block 12, people report hearing cackling and disembodied voices. In cell block 4, visitors have seen the ghostly silhouette of a locksmith working on a cell door. The most intense energy, however, is in the hole, a pitch-black underground cell used for punishment. The feeling of pure despair is overwhelming. Eastern State Penitentiary is not just a ruin, it is a monument to human suffering, and the spirits of the men driven to madness are still serving their sentence. We leave the cold stone of prisons and castles for the sun-scorched earth of the United Arab Emirates. Here, along the coast, lies the abandoned pearling village of Jazirat al-Hamra. What was once a thriving community is now a ghost town, its coral and mud brick houses slowly crumbling back into the desert sand. The entire village was abandoned in 1968, and the reasons are shrouded in mystery and local legend. The official story points to tribal disputes and the lure of oil money, but the locals will tell you a much darker tale. They say the people fled because of the jinns. According to ancient beliefs, jinns are supernatural beings made of smokeless fire that can be good, evil, or neutral. The residents of Jazirat al-Hamra believed the village was overrun by malevolent jinns, powerful entities that haunted their homes and tormented their families. The stories they tell are terrifying. Disembodied voices whispering in the night, strange, Apparitions appearing in doorways and the chilling sensation of being touched by unseen hands. The fear became so great that they left everything behind, fleeing for their lives. Today, Jasirat al-Hamra remains eerily silent, a snapshot of a forgotten time. But visitors who dare to walk its dusty streets report that the spirits, or jinns, never left. They speak of hearing the laughter of ghostly children, seeing strange lights moving within the abandoned buildings, and feeling an intense and hostile presence, especially near the old mosque. Some have even captured handprints appearing on their cars after visiting. This isn't just an abandoned village. It's a place where ancient folklore and paranormal reality collide, a territory claimed by entities far older than the buildings themselves. High in the Dublin Mountains of Ireland overlooking the city, sits a desolate ruined hunting lodge with a truly sinister reputation. This is Montpellier Hill, home to the infamous Hellfire Club. Built around 1725, this lodge became the meeting place for a secret society of wealthy elites who reportedly indulged in debauchery, alcohol, and dark occult rituals. The stories surrounding their activities are the stuff of nightmares, tales of black masses, animal sacrifices, and even pacts made with the devil himself. The very stones of this building feel corrupted, tainted by the dark energies that were summoned here. The lodge itself was built using stones from a nearby ancient passage tomb, an act of profound disrespect to the spirits of the dead. This desecration is believed to have unleashed a powerful, malevolent force that has haunted the site ever since. The most famous legend tells of a stranger who joined the club members for a game of cards. When one player dropped a card, he bent down to retrieve it and saw that the stranger had cloven hooves instead of feet. Realizing he was in the presence of the devil, the stranger vanished in a ball of fire, leaving the members terrified. Today, the ruin stands as a stark and lonely sentinel on the hill. The atmosphere is heavy and menacing. Visitors report seeing dark, shadowy figures moving among the ruins, hearing disembodied screams carried on the wind, and experiencing a sudden, overwhelming sense of fear and dread. One of the most chilling omens associated with the Hellfire Club is the appearance of a large black cat, said to be a demonic familiar, or even the devil in disguise. This places a scar on the landscape, a portal to a dark dimension that was pried open by reckless men, and it has never been closed. Our journey takes us to the oldest surviving colonial building in South Africa, the Castle of Good Hope in Cape Town. This massive five-pointed fortress has a history drenched in blood and violence. Built by the Dutch East India Company in the 17th century, it was a center of colonial power. And with that power came immense cruelty. Its dungeons were notorious for the horrific torture inflicted upon prisoners, and the echoes of that pain and suffering are still, honestly, palpable within its cold, stone walls. The castle is home to several well-known apparitions. The most famous is the ghost of Governor Peter Gisbert van Noot, a cruel and unforgiving man who died on the same day he sentenced several mutineers to be hanged. He reportedly died of a heart attack, cursing God with his final breath. His angry spirit is now seen roaming the battlements, and his presence is always accompanied by a feeling of intense anger and fear. Another prominent ghost is the Lady in Grey, a weeping female figure who was often seen rushing through the castle. Her hauntings mysteriously stopped after a woman's body was discovered during excavations. The paranormal activity here is constant and honestly, pretty unsettling. Guards have reported their patrol dogs refusing to walk near certain archways, whining and barking at something unseen. The bell in the bell tower, which has been sealed off for centuries, is known to ring on its own, an omen of death. Disembodied voices and footsteps are a common occurrence, especially in the dark, windowless dungeon known as the Donker Gat, or Dark Hole. This castle is not just a historical landmark, it's a container for centuries of pain, a place where the spirits of the cruel and the victimized are locked together in an eternal conflict. We now travel to one of the most infamous haunted locations in all of Asia, the Old Changi Hospital in Singapore. This abandoned hospital complex sits on a hill, its decaying Art Deco facade slowly being reclaimed by the jungle, but its serene appearance, honestly, belies a truly horrific past. During World War II, the hospital was seized by the Japanese secret police, the Kempei Tai, and transformed from a place of healing into a brutal prison camp and torture chamber. The suffering that occurred here is almost unimaginable. The Kempei Tai were notorious for their cruelty, and this hospital became their playground. The rooms and hallways that were once meant for recovery echoed with the screams of prisoners of war and anyone suspected of being anti-Japanese. Countless souls perished here under brutal torture. After the war, it reverted to a hospital, but staff and patients constantly reported paranormal phenomena. They spoke of shadowy figures in the corridors, strange noises from empty rooms, and the phantom smell of blood and decay. The building was finally abandoned in 1997, but the spirits remained. Today, Old Changi Hospital is a mecca for ghost hunters and thrill seekers, but honestly, few leave unshaken. The most haunted area is said to be the old mortuary, where people report being touched by icy hands and hearing blood-curdling screams. Apparitions of Japanese soldiers, ghostly children, and the wailing spirit of a nurse are frequently cited. The energy is so thick with trauma and pain that it's physically draining. This isn't just an abandoned building, it's a wound on the earth, a place where the agony of the past is trapped on a continuous, terrifying loop. Off the coast of Venice, Italy, lies a small, forbidden island with a past so dark it has earned the name the Island of Madness. This is Poveglia, a place that has served as a dumping ground for the dead and the insane for centuries. Its soil is said to be composed of more human ash than dirt. The island's dark history began during the Roman era when it was used to isolate plague victims, but its reputation for horror was cemented during the bubonic plague. Tens of thousands of plague victims were shipped here, burned and buried in massive plague pits. As if that weren't enough, in the 1920s, a mental asylum was built on the island. The location was chosen deliberately. The isolation meant to contain the mad. But the patients were not treated. They were tormented. The asylum's director was a sadistic doctor who performed horrifying experiments on his patients, including crude lobotomies with hammers and chisels, all without anesthesia. The patients reported seeing the ghosts of the plague victims, their screams dismissed as symptoms of their madness. The doctor's reign of terror ended when he was allegedly driven mad by the spirits himself, throwing himself from the asylum's bell tower. Today, Poveglia is strictly off-limits to the public. The Italian government forbids anyone from setting foot on its shores, and fishermen refuse to fish in its waters for fear of dragging up human remains. Those who have snuck onto the island report an overwhelming sense of evil. They hear disembodied screams, see flitting shadows, and are overcome by a malevolent presence. We've captured EVPs here that are some of the most chilling I've ever heard. Poveglia is not just haunted, it is a concentration of pure, undiluted human misery, an island that truly belongs to the dead. At the base of Japan's majestic Mount Fuji lies a place of profound sadness and unsettling silence, Aokigahara Forest. Known grimly as the Suicide Forest, this dense, sprawling woodland has become one of the world's most frequent sites for people taking their own lives. The forest floor is a bizarre landscape of volcanic rock, and the trees grow so densely that they block out almost all sunlight and sound. Walking through it feels like stepping into another world, one where the air is thick with sorrow and despair. The forest's reputation dates back centuries, linked to the ancient practice of ubasut, where elderly or infirm relatives were left in the forest to die during times of famine. It's believed that tormented spirits, known as yurei, still wander the woods. This historical sadness, combined with the hundreds of modern tragedies that occur here, has saturated Aokigahara with a powerful negative energy. Compasses and GPS devices are notoriously unreliable here due to the magnetic iron in the volcanic soil, adding to the sense of disorientation and supernatural influence. Visitors and patrol teams report a host of paranormal experiences. They hear disembodied whispers and blood-curdling screams that seem to come from all directions at once. They see white, spectral figures flitting between the trees and feel an overwhelming sense of being watched. Many believe the forest itself has a malevolent intelligence, one that preys on sadness and lures people deeper into its depths, preventing them from leaving. Aokigahara is a place of immense tragedy, a beautiful but deadly labyrinth haunted by the echoes of countless final moments. We return to England, to one of the most famous and feared buildings in the world, the Tower of London. For nearly 1,000 years, this imposing fortress on the River Thames has been a royal palace, an armory, a treasury, and most notoriously, a prison and place of execution. The phrase sent to the tower struck fear into the hearts of all who heard it, as it was often a death sentence. The sheer number of historical figures who met their end here is staggering, and their spirits are said to be trapped within its bloody walls. The White Tower, the oldest part of the fortress, is haunted by the White Lady, who is sometimes seen waving to children from a window. But the most heart-wrenching spirits are those of the princes in the tower. The two young sons of King Edward IV were imprisoned in the tower in 1483 by their uncle, Richard III, and were never seen again. The skeletons of two children were discovered under a staircase centuries later, and the ghostly figures of two small boys in nightgowns are often seen holding hands, their faces filled with terror, their whispers heard in the dark. Perhaps the most famous ghost is that of Queen Anne Boleyn, the second wife of Henry VIII, who was beheaded on the Tower Green in 1536. Her headless apparition has been seen leading a ghostly procession near the site of her execution and wandering the corridors of the Queen's house, carrying her own head under her arm. The Tower of London is more than a museum. It is a paranormal vortex where the spirits of royalty, traitors, and innocent victims are forced to relive their tragic histories for eternity. The weight of their stories is a physical presence you can feel in the air. Our investigation now takes us down under to Australia's most haunted private residence, the Monte Cristo homestead in Junee, New South Wales. From the outside, it's a beautiful Victorian manor, but its elegant facade hides a century of tragedy, violence, and death. The history of the Crawley family, who built the house in 1885, is marked by a series of bizarre and fatal accidents that have left an indelible spiritual stain on the property. The current owners claim that the spirits of the Crawley family and their victims have never left. The list of tragedies is long and disturbing. A young child, Lillian, was dropped down the stairs by a nanny. Her spirit is now said to play on the very staircase where she died. A stable boy burned to death in his sleep. His screams are still heard on quiet nights. A caretaker was murdered in his cottage in 1961, and most notably, the original lady of the house, Mrs. Crawley, became a recluse after her husband's death, confining herself to her room for 23 years. Her stern, commanding presence is still felt throughout the house, and her ghost is often seen on the balcony. Visitors to Monte Cristo experience a barrage of paranormal activity. Lights flicker on and off, disembodied voices are heard, and objects move on their own. Many people feel an icy touch or the sensation of being watched. Some are overcome with a sudden, inexplicable sadness, particularly in Mrs. Crawley's room. The homestead is a pressure cooker of spiritual energy, a place where a family's dark and tragic legacy is trapped in a cycle of grief and torment. The spirits here are active, they are numerous, and they want you to know their story. So, we travel now to the picturesque Loire Valley in France, to the tallest castle in the whole country. Château de Brissac is just a stunning example of Renaissance architecture. But, you know, behind all that opulent beauty lies a really dark secret of murder and betrayal. The castle is actually home to one of France's most famous ghosts, La Dame Verte, or the Green Lady. Her story is honestly a gruesome tale of a double murder that happened within these castle walls way back in the 15th century. And let me tell you, this is not a peaceful spirit, this is a soul in eternal torment. The Green Lady was Charlotte de Brézé, the illegitimate daughter of King Charles VII. Her husband, Jacques de Brézé, found out she was having an affair, and, in a fit of jealous rage, murdered both Charlotte and her lover with his sword. Even though he fled, he just couldn't escape the memory of what he'd done, and Charlotte, well, she couldn't escape the place where her life ended so violently. Her spirit has haunted the castle ever since, forever bound to the room where her life was taken. Her apparition is actually one of the most terrifying on record. She's often seen in the tower room of the chapel, wearing the green dress she loved in life. But it's her face that really causes the most fear. She has no eyes, no nose, just these gaping black holes in her skull, a gruesome reflection of her decomposition. Her presence is often, preceded by the chilling sound of her moaning, this agonizing wail that just echoes through the castle halls. Even the current owners, the de Brissac family, have grown kind of accustomed to her spectral cries. She is a permanent, terrifying resident of this beautiful chateau. Alright, so now we head to the deep south of the United States, to what is often called one of America's most haunted homes, the Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana. This antebellum plantation is draped in Spanish moss and, honestly, it's just steeped in a history of slavery, murder, and vengeance. The sheer number of reported hauntings has made it a legend in the paranormal community. The energy here is, well, thick and heavy, a mixture of southern charm and deep underlying sorrow and anger. The most famous legend is that of Chloe, an enslaved woman owned by the Woodruff family. The story goes that she was caught eavesdropping and had her ear cut off as punishment. To win back her owner's favor, she baked a cake containing poisonous oleander leaves, intending only to make the family sick. But her plan went horribly wrong, and she accidentally killed the wife and 2 daughters of her owner. She was then allegedly hanged by fellow slaves and thrown into the Mississippi River. Her spirit, wearing a green turban to cover her missing ear, is said to haunt the plantation, eternally seeking forgiveness. But Chloe is just one of at least 12 spirits said to haunt the property. Visitors and staff report a whole lot of paranormal activity. There's a mysterious bloodstain on the floor that just can't be removed, furniture that moves by itself, and the grand piano playing on its own. These are all pretty common occurrences. The ghostly figures of the 2 murdered children are often seen playing on the veranda. And there's this famous photograph taken at the plantation that appears to show the ghostly figure of Chloe herself, just standing between 2 buildings. The Myrtles Plantation is a place where the brutal history of the South is very much alive. And yeah, the spirits are definitely not silent. For our final location, we're heading back to Scotland, to a place that really dominates the skyline, and honestly, the nightmares of its city Edinburgh Castle. Perched right atop an extinct volcano, this ancient fortress has seen countless battles, royal dramas, and brutal imprisonments. It is, without a doubt, one of the most haunted places on Earth. The sheer age and violent history of this castle have created, well, a paranormal vortex, a city of the dead that mirrors the city of the living below. The energy here is raw, powerful, and at times, just overwhelmingly aggressive. The castle's dungeons are a place of unimaginable suffering. For centuries, they held prisoners of war, pirates and criminals in squalid, lightless conditions. During one of the largest paranormal investigations ever conducted here back in 2001, almost half of the participants reported paranormal experiences, from sudden drops in temperature and seeing shadowy figures, to actually being physically touched and pulled by unseen forces. The activity is most intense in the South Bridge Vaults, a series of underground chambers where the poorest of the poor lived and died in misery. The castle is home to a bunch of famous ghosts. There's the headless drummer boy whose appearance is said to, herald an attack on the castle. There's the ghost of a piper who was sent to explore the secret tunnels beneath the castle and just vanished. His ghostly pipe music is still heard from deep underground. And then there are the countless nameless spirits of French prisoners from the 7 Years' War and American prisoners from the Revolutionary War, their desperate energy still lingering in the vaults. Edinburgh Castle isn't just haunted, it's infested with the spirits of 1,000 years of history, making it our #1 most haunted place in the world. These are the places where history just refuses to die. From the cursed forts of India to the tragic plantations of the American South, the energy of the past is a tangible force. The spirits we've talked about are more than just stories. They're echoes of real lives, real pain, and real tragedy, forever imprinted on the locations where they met their end. Our journey into these dark corners of the world is a quest for understanding, a mission to capture evidence of what lies beyond our own existence. The fear we feel is real, but honestly, it's driven by a deep respect for the spirits and the stories they have to tell. The world is full of these locations, each with its own unique energy and restless souls. This is just the beginning. Our production team is always on the road, always searching for the next location, the next piece of evidence that's going to bring us one step closer to the truth. We're dedicated to bringing you along on these investigations, to letting you experience the chill, the mystery, and the profound connection to the other side. There is so much more to explore, so many voices waiting to be heard in the darkness. If you felt that connection, that chill down your spine, then join our community of paranormal investigators. Hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you never miss an expedition into the unknown. And if you believe in what we do, show your support by hitting the like button. Your engagement helps us continue our search for answers. Stay with us as we continue to pull back the veil. The next investigation is just around the corner.